Good morning. On behalf of Boston Real Estate Times, I would like to welcome you to our annual 10 Outstanding Women Leaders in Commercial Real Estate of 2021. Generally, it is an actual breakfast event which is attended by 200 to 300 people, but sign of times we are going to go today virtual. Hopefully next year we'll get back to our normal event. 25 years ago, when I was editor of Boston Real Estate Times, uh, in Boston Business Journal's Real Estate Times section, then I used to cover real estate for architects, construction companies, developers, for every, all sections of real estate. And it was very difficult to find women in real estate. Even those who were there, only they were in second tier or third tier. In 25 years, we have made a great progress, and we need to do much more. Now, the companies are slowly discovering that wherever, in whichever sector, women are in the leadership positions, their revenue stream is up, their profitability is up, their creativity is up, and most importantly, customer satisfaction is very, very high. So it's really great honor to welcome 10 of you. You really are a role model and lead the Boston's commercial real estate industry in almost every aspect possible. For this year award, we had received about close to 150 nominations, and it was very, very difficult for us to come down to 10. So you are really lucky one, and congratulations to you all. As I mentioned 25 years ago, there were not even 150 women in the commercial real estate, and we got so many nominations this year. So again, so we are now before we start the ceremony, I would like to tell you a little bit about the Boston Real Estate Times. It started in 2002 at a very low key, and at that time it was called um, Boston SF. And again, it came back from the time when I was working at the Boston Business Journal, and we had started tiny publications once a month. It was called Boston SF, and then it just grew totally organically. And about 3, 4 years ago, we changed its name to Boston Real Estate Times. And now, organically, it has grown to about 13,500 subscribers. And most of them are from the Boston area and the New England area, and they get our daily editions. And then we have about between 3,000 to 5,000 unique visitors every day to Boston Real Estate Times. And also we have a very vibrant, one of the reasons we have such a high traffic is that we have very vibrant social media presence through Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube and the Facebook. And also it's very easy to share our stories. So the traffic is very organic, and we are very proud of that. Now, regarding the today's ceremony, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to invite one by one and give just basically their name and the title and 1 or 2 line descriptions. And then we will ask them to just, tell about their own story in 2 to 3 minutes, or if they need a little bit more time, they can take that time. And we are looking forward to hearing that. Also, we are going to do is that we have a plaque. I think it may not show up right here on the screen, but we are going to mail this to you. And we have also printed a very glossy special edition where we have the profiles of all 10 of you. So both the plaques and the print edition will be mailed to your office. So again, thank you. And now let us start the ceremony. The first, I would like to invite Jomarie Andrews. She is a partner at the Boston law firm of Hinckley Allen. They also have offices in other parts of the New England. Uh, Jomarie is the partner in Hinckley Allen's Real Estate Group. She focuses on a broad spectrum of commercial real estate, including purchases, sales, and assemblies of real estate development work, representation of landlords and tenants in the industrial, office, and retail leasing, and representation of lenders and borrowers in financings. So with that note, I would like to welcome Jomarie. Please say a few things about you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. I'm thanking the Boston Real Estate Times for this fantastic award, and I'm truly honored and flattered to have been chosen. I joined Hinckley Allen about 8 years ago from a different law firm where I'd also practiced real estate law. We're an AmLaw 200 regional law firm with offices in Boston, Providence, Hartford, Manchester, New Hampshire, and New York. We have a large real estate practice with a lot of expertise in all areas of real estate law. And we pride ourselves on delivering excellent legal services and good results for our clients. When I started practice many years ago, I started very briefly as a litigator and hated it because no one was happy and everybody was in conflict. I was asked when the real estate department of my former firm got busy if I was interested in getting to know commercial real estate. And they had a very interesting job working for the federal government, which was acquiring the Appalachian Trail at the time. So I said I'd love to do that. And I found I loved the real estate work. I don't shy from a tough negotiation and getting my client what they want, but I like making a deal and having people look forward to working on a project. So for many years, my practice has focused on real estate development, from beginning to end of a project. I enjoy strategizing with the clients as to how to get a deal done and seeing it come together and taking it through from the very beginning to contracts, permitting, utilities, acquisition, leasing, and closing. Upendra, did you want me to go into a little more about the projects that were showcased here, or did you want other people to speak briefly first?
Sure, yeah, let's go one by one, and then if time permits, we will come back. Okay. So our next honoree is Cappy Daume. She is the Managing Director of Asset Management at the Davis Companies. All of us here in Boston know Davis Companies. They have been one of the great, very innovative developers, whether it's life sciences or office here in Boston or in other Northeast cities and towns. And she is a key player at the Davis Companies. So Cappy, welcome to this award ceremony. I would like to hear you say a few words.
Sure. Thank you, Upendra. Thank you very much. And what a great job you've been doing. I can't believe it's been 25 years. I wanted to thank the Boston Real Estate Times for this honor and more broadly for recognizing the many contributions that women make to our industry, whether through design, finance, legal, operations, engineering, construction, brokerage, planning, development. Early in my career, I was fortunate to be introduced to many wonderful women in real estate through an organization called New Wire, which today is called Crew. And some of my closest connections and mentors came from this dedicated and talented group of women. Ever since then, I really have cherished my fellow female professionals, and I'm delighted to be recognized with these women today. Long ago, I was privileged to work on a very large transaction with another, I think, really brilliant real estate mind, Erin O'Boyle. Erin was one of a handful of chief investment officers in the country at that time and was a leading figure at Beacon Capital. Erin was directing the sale of Technology Square in Cambridge on behalf of Beacon, and I was part of the team representing MIT as the buyer. After the deal was completed, Aaron and I were recognized by New Wire for closing this transaction just before the dot-com bubble was about to burst. I kept a copy of Aaron's comments that day, both as a talisman, but also as a moral compass. The question she wanted to address to that group of women that day was, how do you get a seat at the table? And her recommendations have guided me ever since. And quite frankly, they're gender neutral. And I thought I'd share them with you, if you don't mind, Prindra, real
Sure.
quick. The first one was, learn the business and remember that overnight success usually takes about 15 years. You don't waste any time learning the tricks of the trade. Do what these women have done and learn the trade. Number 2, aim high and take risks. It's better to swing for the fences than to be called out on strikes. And remember that even if you don't feel brave, pretend to be, because no one will know the difference. Learn to listen and watch for big problems, for they usually disguise big opportunities. Be grateful. It's important to recognize that no one makes it in this business alone. Have a grateful heart and be quick to acknowledge those who have helped you. Finally, build trust. I've found that in business and in life, one of the most valuable things is trust. It builds reputation and it is your most treasured asset. I wanted to thank John, Stephen, and Rick and all my esteemed colleagues at the Davis companies. This past year has been a challenging one for all of us due to the size and volume of abrupt changes to our economy, our way of life, our mental health, our country. I'm a believer, however, that COVID has brought us many silver linings and a rapid acceleration of trends that will be long-lasting and have positive impacts on all our lives. For me, this pandemic has facilitated a memorable bonding experience with my TDC family that has forced us to minimize the unimportant and called on us to be a true team. Together, we have emerged stronger, tighter, and more dedicated than ever, for which I'm truly grateful.
Thank you.
That was it, Upendra.
Thank you. Our next honoree is Suzanne Duca. Both in media as well as the real estate professionals heavily rely on her research, and we often use her research in our stories and reporting and writing. Suzanne Duca is Director of Research for the New England area for the CBRE. She joined CBRE New England in 2011 as the Director of Research. She coordinates the company's quarterly market reports and is responsible for overall maintenance of the company's proprietary research database. Suzanne, welcome, and let's hear you now.
Thank you. And thank you for including me in this honor. I'm
Sure.
totally honored. I feel like I haven't been in the industry as long as I have at this point, but as I take a look back, I guess 20 years now is a lot longer than I feel like I've been in the industry. And when I started, I think I came into the business not knowing what real estate was. I wasn't somebody that grew up in the business or knowing that's where I was going to go. And I took a leap during the dot-com bust and took a job and ended up in the industry. And for the first couple of years, worked more of in an IT role and still didn't fully understand what real estate was. And flash forward, 20 years, I'm still here. And I think it's been such an incredible adventure. And I feel really lucky to have been, supported by some great colleagues, given me the opportunity to grow. And while I don't tend to work on the front lines of the transactions every day, I love having the opportunity to support a lot of the, behind the scenes and I'm a data junkie at the end of the day. And I love supporting all of the transactions that are happening and being involved in the strategy that's going on behind the scenes. And so I appreciate this honor in that, there's a lot of us that work right behind the scenes to make things happen every day. And I think it's really an honor to support, male or female, the people that are doing this, behind what you don't always see out on the front lines every day. And so I say immense thank you for including me. a big thank you to my team at CBRE. My team for the last year has supported me immensely, as this has been probably the most challenging year of my career, with 3 little people running around my house. We have managed to survive. And I feel like we've come, like Cappy said, we've come out stronger from this for a lot of reasons, and we've really leaned in and leaned on each other. And I don't think I could have done it without a lot of their support, because every day has been a little bit of a challenge. But I look forward to kind of the years ahead as we come out of this.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next honoree is Julie Gray. She's the Executive Vice President of McCall and Almy. She is easygoing and friendly. Personality makes her one of the most approachable people in McCall and Almy's office. And that's what we heard from a lot of nominations we had for her. And everybody talked about how approachable she is and how good mentor she is. So let's hear from her. Julie, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you to the Boston Real Estate Times for the award. I feel very honored. I mean, I look around at some of the people on this that won the award, and I feel like I'm in some really elite company. So thank you. And, I've been at McCall and Almy, I think, since 1999. I came out here to go to graduate school. I was living in Minneapolis, and I thought, I'm going to go to graduate school. I'm going right back. And that was, 22 years ago. So, and I also need to thank Mary Lentz. She was really my mentor. I worked part-time while I was in school and sent out a bunch of resumes, and I connected with Mary, and, I owe her a lot in terms of learning the business, and learning kind of the Boston business specifically. My first real estate job was in Chicago for a company called Draper and Kramer. It was an independent real estate firm, kind of full service. They did property management, they did development, construction. So I was in development and construction at the time, kind of looking at draw requests. So started there, and then started reviewing environmental reports, and then went to Minneapolis and did work for MetLife for a while in property management, and then worked for a firm similar to McCall and Almy, small, called Nelson Teets and Hoy in Minneapolis. And I didn't plan on being in real estate, but I think Jomarie said it, you're like, you start doing it and you're like, oh, this is kind of fun. This is interesting. You do a variety of different things. You use, I think, psychology, you use finance, you use communication, all these different skills, and then you read about it in the paper. So to me, that was really exciting. And, the people I work with are just awesome. I feel like the company, it feels more like almost like a marriage, like, for better or for worse, for sickness and health. I mean, the things that we've gone through there in 20 years are a lot. And I feel really bonded to all of those people. And we, do a variety of different things. We're small, we're about 25 people, but we have some great clients. Mass General Brigham is probably where I spend most of my time. We've been working on, COVID related things over the last year, and that's been really rewarding. But yeah, I can't thank my colleagues, my partners at McCall and Almy enough for the opportunity to be in the industry. I feel very lucky and grateful. And I feel like, it's been 30 years since my first real estate job, but I feel like every day, you learn something different. I feel like I still don't know, feel like Mary's my idol, and probably Cappy is too, kind of in terms of the knowledge they bring to the table. A lot of you, I'm sure others are too, as knowledgeable. I just don't know you as well. So yeah, I feel really lucky to be in the industry and among these great group of women. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Our next honoree is Sharon Jozokos. I hope I pronounced her last name right, but maybe not. She's the Vice President of Healthcare at Columbia Construction. And we all know that how important healthcare and life sciences and the lab market today is in Boston. And she has really done some really cool work on many important projects in Boston. She has built a successful career on integrity, passion, and for winning and hard work. She has vast knowledge based on the various means and methods to implement a construction project. And Columbia Construction is one of the leading construction and general contracting firm from Boston. So Sharon, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate the recognition and the honor. I do. It's exciting for sure. I've been 30 years in the business, and I'm sure as those of you on the real estate side and Hinckley Allen I've done work with over the years, we are carving a path that's not an easy path. And the day I hit on a job site as a field engineer, I have been fighting, I feel like every day since then to, prove my worth and value, because it was never just assumed. It's always been having to be proven. And I remember my mentor, who still is today, ended up being the owner of William A. Berry and Son. Years ago, I started in '92. Peter Campo, he hired me, and he always saw something that I had trouble seeing. It's really hard to look that far ahead of what you can be. It's more, I always felt like I was always doubting myself as to what I could do, or and especially in, surrounded by mostly men. And back then it was more predominantly men. I mean, it's gotten better in today's world, for sure. And I think there's women like us that are helping making that transition and opening the doors and making it easier for women to get into the business. But I've worked overseas. I developed a couple of significant projects in North Africa. I've done a lot of development in the Boston market across the region. Every project, as a new site, whether you're taking something old down, building something new, has a lot of legal aspects, approvals, BRA impacts. So I've been involved in all of those front end efforts to develop some pretty amazing projects. And Columbia has been a really good company. I've been there almost 5 years, and I couldn't be happier where I've finally landed. And they're very supportive of my perspective, what I have to offer to the business and to the market. And healthcare is definitely a passion, because I think building healthcare projects is it's a great contribution to our society, and I'm very proud of what we're able to produce, and the doctors and nurses and people that get to utilize the spaces that we create. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And now our next honoree is Elizabeth Lowrey. She is Principal and Director of Interior Architecture at Elkus Manfredi Architects. All of us know Elkus Manfredi. They have done a great job when it comes to architecture in Boston and surrounding areas. And we also have written a lot, actually, about Elizabeth's work in Boston Real Estate Times. So Elizabeth, welcome, and let's hear from you, your story and your firm's story.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. So I want to start, like others, by saying thank you to the Boston Real Estate Times for this recognition, and especially to you, Upendra, and the Mishra Group. I'm enormously honored to be included in the company of all of my fellow honorees, and your accomplishments inspire me, as I'm sure they inspire many others in our real estate community. So community is something that, as a designer, I wake up every morning thinking about every day. And at my firm, Elkus Manfredi Architects, our projects are ultimately about the community, about bringing people together, whether it's a workplace, a hotel, a life sciences building, or a student residential building. So as I look at the people here today, I'm struck by how strong, invested, and engaged this community really is. There are a lot of seats at the table, which that's really great news. People coming together from different disciplines, like all of us today from the worlds of finance, law, development, brokerage, construction, and design. The social justice upheavals of the past year have expanded the meaning of the words community and sustainability to include social equity, diversity, and psychological well-being. They also have accelerated the rise of ESG, environmental, social, and governance, an acronym that we're all very familiar with and are becoming even more familiar with. ESG is driving businesses of all kinds to adopt a purpose-driven path and will increasingly shape business and the built environment. This group has always been thoughtful about these issues, but the principles of ESG have finally gotten to the top of the mountain. We've all been awakened to the profound urgency of finding solutions to our society's long-term inequities. This is an exciting time in commercial real estate. And I really mean that. Everything is possible. The task at hand touches every single one of us. Together, we make environments where people from all walks of life live, work, and play. And together, we can make a difference. It's our responsibility. We can and we must help lead the way to make the places we build socially just, environmentally kind, and welcoming and inclusive for all. Turning the combined capabilities of our community toward the good of the greater community, that is the real job ahead of us. We're better together. And if the brain power represented here today by these honorees is any indication, I have every confidence that we are more than up to the task. We've accomplished a lot together. And I see greater accomplishments on the horizon. And thank you very much for this wonderful recognition. And I look forward to working with you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Our next honoree is Juliette Reiter. She is Executive Managing Director at Newmark. This is one of the leading commercial brokerage firms in Boston and around the country. And welcome, Juliette.
Thank you and good morning. Pendra, thanks very much to you and the Boston Real Estate Times for this recognition. I really look forward to getting to know some of the fellow honorees here today and hopefully working together on some life science leases, which is what I spend most of my time doing at Newmark. You know, we've talked about 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, and everybody has remarked how quickly time passes. And I sort of echo that sentiment as well. I sort of fell into this over 20 years ago myself, seeing this niche for helping life sciences companies in particular with their real estate needs. And it certainly turned into something very exciting and really, really tons of fun. I would like to especially thank my team at Newmark for the nomination for this award and for their unwavering support for over these past 20 years as well, because we all know that nothing really happens. You don't do anything by yourself. It all happens with the team, and it certainly takes a village. And really wish everybody a happy and healthy, prosperous 2021 and hope to see everybody soon and work together.
Thank you. And our next honoree is, since talking about life sciences, is Susie Harborth. She is the Executive Vice President of Business Operations at Breakthrough Properties. It is a new company established in Boston. She is Executive Vice President of Business Operations. Over the past decade, she has been at the forefront of real estate innovation and developing a co-working platform from life sciences companies. So, and she's also co-founder of and CEO of BioLabs. So Susie, welcome to, and we would like to hear your story, please.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Pendra, for giving us this amazing platform and to be able to showcase some of the women in the Boston community, but the just, you know, opportunities at large for women across the country. And to the Boston Real Estate Times, we rely on you heavily for our intel. So thank you so much for giving us a platform to stay abreast of all the news. I come from real estate from a user perspective, from the tenant perspective, having been a life science entrepreneur, investor, and worked in investment banking for a number of years. and realized back in 2008 or 2009, actually Juliette was our broker, so we worked together and have worked in this industry for quite a long time, that there was a real need for life science innovation in real estate. Life sciences really requires you to be at the bench, at the desk. And in this COVID time, realizing that, you know, it's an essential business where you can't do that work from home. And so how do we make the scalability and flexibility that is required, that happens in the life science space, the innovation space, match up with what landlords were requesting at the time? And in 2010, Juliette and I were knocking on every door and everyone said, you know, you're a 3-person startup, but we want you to take 20,000 square feet for 10 years. And that's ridiculous for a startup to even plan out 2 years, much less 10 years. And obviously 20,000 square feet is too much space for a 3-person company, but it's too little space for a 100-person company. And companies scale at a very exponential rate in the life science sector. So we came up with this model, my partners and I, Johannes Fruhauf and Peter Parker, who started Lab Central, which is the nonprofit space in Kendall Square, really to solve for that need. Is that, okay, if we're gonna have to take 10-year leases and that much space, why don't we offer it on a flexible model to those early companies who were actually our friends, who were companies that we knew were venture-backed companies that needed the same thing we needed, a space to scale, start, and grow. And that's what Lab Central and then Biolabs became for the Boston area. And then I came across Breakthrough Properties, and Breakthrough is a joint venture between Tishman Speyer, who's had, you know, multiple decades long history in the real estate world, and Belco Capital, which has an equally long history in company creation and development of life science companies and therapies that have actually gone to market and saved patients' lives and are on the market today, solving things and curing therapies for patients in cancer. And so Breakthrough Properties is a new firm. We have 2 projects in Boston, but we're focused on creating exclusively life science real estate campuses. And like Elizabeth said, communities that enable innovation, enable life-saving therapies. So for me, being in real estate really solves an itch that I have to be a builder and a healer. And for us, at the end of the day, the real estate allows patients to get therapies to them to make cures rather than just treat symptoms. And so our real estate enables communities. They are transformative, innovative communities that allow for innovation. And we solve for all types of real estate, from incubator type tenants all the way up through large pharma. So I'm really honored to be here among all these women working together, because it does take an enormous amount of resources. And it really is the people, the places and the people and the platform, but it comes down to the people. And I think having women at the seat at the table really makes a difference in diversity, thought, and innovation. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Our next honoree is Jill Sharif. She is a Vice President for National Business Development for First American Title National Commercial Services. As a Vice President of National Business Development for First Americans, Sharif is responsible for the marketing and business development, a 3-time winner of 2019, 2015, 2013, the award's inaugural year of DPK Circle of Excellence, an award that recognizes the highest performing members of the sales and escrow teams. She has expanded the commercial title and escrow services across the country for First American's National Commercial Services Division. She has worked on numerous complex projects throughout the country for all asset classes. She, along with many others, were honored with the Crew Boston Networking Award in 2018 for contributions to One Dalton project in Boston. So Jill, welcome, and let us hear your story.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm extremely honored to be one of the recipients of the Outstanding Women of 2021 in Commercial Real Estate from the Boston Real Estate Times. What a class to be in. I am earnestly grateful for this recognition I've received for my work from my mentors and my peers. Now, the road to this has not always been easy, but through each challenge, it has strengthened me to be the professional I am, someone who sets their eyes on a goal and does not lose sight of the goal until it is achieved. Of course, I would have achieved no measure of success without the support and example set by many people. People I've worked with for over 20 years at First American Title Insurance Company, National Commercial Services, on numerous projects throughout the country, people in my network, my clients who challenge me every day, and most importantly, my friends and family. All of you have contributed to my constant learning and growth in this profession. I sincerely thank each one of you for helping me reach a state where I can proudly hold up this award as a mark of my achievement. Many years ago, I never saw myself working in the commercial real estate world, much less being considered a leader in this area. The reason I am here today is because of the many people that challenged me in my career, pulled me repeatedly out of my comfort zone, and encouraged me to realize that I was capable of accomplishing so much more than I thought I was ever capable of. Over the course of my career in this industry, I've been fortunate to receive many chances to learn and grow. I've made many friends and strong business relationships through the various national commercial real estate associations, but none as impactful as Crew Boston and the Crew Network, which Cappy had mentioned earlier. In my role as president, I refocused and led the organization through the height of the pandemic, chaired their diversity, equity, and inclusion task force, which ultimately created the DE&I roadmap for the chapter and evolved into the Crew Boston DE&I committee. The committee was created with the understanding that in order to promote the advancement and parity of women in the commercial real estate industry, we must include the advancement and parity in underrepresented groups to overcome institutional biases and racism within the commercial real estate industry. What is remarkable, what is remarkable is we were able to formulate a vision for this groundbreaking roadmap and have started executing our plan during a confluence of an economy straining under the weight of a worldwide pandemic and a renewed focus on racial, gender, and equity. This has given me greater insight into the various workplace disparities that affect not only women, but also people of color who are woefully underrepresented in the commercial real estate industry, as well as solutions that can help remake the workplace and unleash its full potential. Now, while this pandemic has not been kind to anyone, it has been particularly unkind to women. Prior to the pandemic, women exceeded men in the workplace for the first time in almost 10 years. Unfortunately, many of those gains were in service industries, which were the hardest hit during the pandemic. According to the National Bureau of Economic Research, the recession caused by COVID-19 is disproportionately affecting women, with 2.2 million women leaving the workforce between February and October. The two main causes for this were declines in the service and hospitality industry, as well as retail and childcare. The commercial real estate industry is not immune to this. It is imperative that we seek out ways to better support women so they can stay on track and continue building rewarding careers during the pandemic and beyond. As scary as that sounds, now is a time of opportunity. While we are carving that path, making our way during a pandemic with the knowledge that better days are ahead, we should never lose sight of the fact that we need balance between our personal and professional lives. Many of us here have families and children. I have twin daughters that are about to turn 16 and are currently beginning their journey to independence. While building my career, I went to try to go to every parents' conference, try to attend every soccer game, coach some of them until I was fired by my children for being too much of a coach, and currently spending a lot of time listening to the large amounts of trauma that come with being a teenager. Even so, I ask myself often, have I struck that balance? Are they going to view me many years down the road as someone they want to emulate, a role model? I hope so. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging continues to be a challenge in commercial real estate, especially for women, but we are making progress. So while women have made great strides in the workforce, there's still so much work to be done. But boundaries are never broken overnight. Boundaries are like rubber bands. We push against them and feel the pressure as they bend, but then they snap back into place, only weaker than before. Then over time and with consistent pressure, they finally break. Let us never forget to push on those boundaries, to recognize these boundaries sometimes hide, and understand that where we lift people up, we rise as well. Thank you again to the Boston Real Estate Times, and congratulations to my fellow honorees.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And our next honoree is Elizabeth von Goeler. She is a principal, chair of external relations at Sasaki. And I must say, it really brings me a very fond memory, because when I started Mishra Group in 1997, Sasaki was one of my first PR clients, and I worked with them for about almost 3 years. So it really brings back, I used to visit your office, on the Charles River, and I really have bring that memory. Now, Elizabeth is a driving force behind workplace design in Boston, and a highly regarded leader within Boston's AEC industry and among her 300 colleagues at Sasaki. She specializes in commercial interior architecture design with decades of experience reimagining and repositioning workplaces, multifamily housing developments, retail environments, and the restaurants. So let us hear rest from herself. Elizabeth, welcome. Please.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And we'll have to make sure that we have you to the new incarnation of the Sasaki office when we get that completed as well. But wanted to say thank you very much for this honor as well. And what a wonderful group of women to be honored, many of whom I've worked with or joined committees with in the past. And for those of you that I don't know, I look forward to getting to know you as well. Also wanted to say thank you to my team, not just for the nomination, but also the only way that all of this happens is as a team and as a group of us together. As you mentioned, Sasaki, and in an interdisciplinary design firm, I usually joke we can design anything from a piece of furniture to an entire city for you. So we are working at a lot of different scales. I've been there for about 4 years, but moved to Boston over 25 years ago from Ohio, looking for the next job in interior architecture and really to start my career. And it was here that I found a strong group of women who were leaders and able to say things to me. You go to a job site and you were treated very differently, 25, 26, 27, 30 years ago than you are now. And they'd say, you know what, you can let them whistle at you, because what you're going to do is you're going to show them that you're smarter than the rest of them. Don't believe that you are, in any way less than what anyone else is because of your gender, which I really took to heart, especially having been raised in a background where gender wasn't really considered something that really made you different or made you less capable of doing what others are able to do that are of a different gender. And so I've really enjoyed being in Boston, having the support of crew, in particular crew committees, also being a part of NAWIC, because they're really communities that have helped to support women, and not just in terms of programming, but also in terms of friendships and really knowing that you're not in this alone, that we're in this all together. And so I guess I would like to use my platform to say, make sure that you know what you need to know your stuff, but don't go into any situation thinking that because of a gender, you're anything less than anyone else is. I do think there's been a change in our culture. I think as females in leadership, we're allowed to think a little bit differently, and one should use that to their advantage, but also make sure that you support and coach others along the way so that we can continue this greater involvement of women in real estate. I'd say, this past year with COVID has been incredibly tough. If there's any silver lining to it, it's been being forced to kind of slow down, being able to connect as real people. I think you may actually hear one of my small real people entering the room here any second now, but really getting to know each other a little bit better and looking at each other as more of a whole human and a whole person, and being able to be a stronger role model for others as well. And so again, I want to say thank you very much for this opportunity, and also for your support of women in real estate.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Now, before we conclude today's ceremony, one thing was very obvious during the nominations. We saw that, of course, all of you were nominated by many people and other than you. And the recurring theme was all of your commitment to empowerment of women in commercial real estate. It was almost unanimous. And that's the sentiment we see right now as you talk about that, about the role of women in commercial real estate throughout. And I think it's very, very important for everybody to recognize that and mentor that. So now, before I let all of you go, I will just invite just one by one and just say that in the next 5 years, let us hope this whole division of gender, male or female, men or women in commercial real estate disappears. How you think that both men and women, I think men are equally responsible for this upliftment. So what will be your suggestion? What will be your advice for both men and women so that in the next 5 years, this whole concept of gender is completely eliminated? Elizabeth, let us start with you. Just one sentence, what do you think? I know I put you on the spot here.
So which Elizabeth?
Oh, Elizabeth,
Go ahead, Elizabeth
Sasaki, yes,
Gonzola.
yeah, sorry,
You
I
go
just
first.
forgot. Okay.
I have a 7-year-old here pestering me, but I think in that future world, and understanding that there really isn't that much of a difference, and that we're all really looking to achieve the same thing is what's most important. And I really look forward to that happening and the ability to think about other issues of equality as well.
Thank you. Julie, what about you? What is your take on that?
I think the first step is just being aware. We have a small office, and I give the guys in our office a hard time all the time because they just, and this is just, a small slice, but educated. I don't even think sometimes they realize that they're being kind of biased towards gender. And then when you bring it up to them, they're like, oh yeah, you actually are right. And the progress in 20 years I've seen there is huge. So I think it's just without, kind of beating someone over the head about it, just to be, gently remind them like, hey, look at it like this, or look at it like that. And I think we're making progress. I think there's still progress to be made, but yeah, it'd be great if in 5 years it was gone. I'm not going to hold my breath that happens, but.
Sure. Susie, what about you?
Yeah, I think, the perception of each individual as a whole person, right? We have personal lives, we have professional lives. It doesn't matter what gender you are, and allowing men to also lean in to the other side of their world, not just the professional world and their personal world, and then vice versa, that looking at each individual as the whole person is where I think we hope to achieve to. So it's not about gender, it's about what does that person bring to the table and how do they contribute to the team.
Sharon?
Me?
Yes.
So I've read many articles about, and I think Julie kind of said it, where people aren't aware that they're even being biased. And we ourselves, all as individuals, I'm sure has had some bias at some point in our lives, right? Whether it's judging somebody in the grocery store or at the gym or in your work environment. And it's, I've worked with so many good people that don't realize it's happening, and I don't blame them. I mean, some of it's more outwardly for sure, and it's aggressive, but a lot of it is just unintentional. And I think it's about education and awareness and not taking it personal either, and just as I think, Julie, you said, calling them out on it, in a nice way. I give a hard time to many of my coworkers when you put out an idea in a group setting and nobody really listens to it, and then somebody else puts that idea out and then like, oh, that's such a great idea. And I'm like, I'm sorry, didn't I just say that? So we definitely communicate differently, we interact differently, and I think there's a huge value. And I think really, as an industry, it's getting more and more recognized. And as you said, Avendra, that it's improved businesses across all platforms.
Thank you. Suzanne, Duca, yes.
I think I would totally agree. I think we've made, a lot of progress over the years, but there's still more to be made. And I think a lot of that unintentional bias that we feel a lot of the times, you tend to let it kind of roll off your back a little bit and not say anything. But I think when you do speak up, I'm hoping that that's what, in the next 5 years, which, probably won't hold my breath, but I think in the next 5 years, if we could see that start to disappear, we've made a lot of progress in coming a long way. And I think, there's a lot of work to be done, but I think, especially when you work in certain environments, you got to give back to them a little bit. But it isn't intentional sometimes. And I think understanding where it's coming from and helping them work through it is making a lot of progress in its own way.
Thank you. Cappy?
Sorry. I think it's a tough question. So how do I phrase this? So on my investment committee, I'm the only woman out of 10 men, or 10 people total. And my exposure to real estate has been in kind of rough and tumble environments. So I think the numbers have to increase. I think being 1 out of 10 is not where we want to be. And so you got to get numbers partly to make a difference. And how can you do that? I think I talked about, positive silver linings coming out of COVID. And I think one of them will be the acceptability of flexibility. I think that's a really wonderful thing. I could have used a day or two at home during my career, raising 2 children and doing what I did. But I never felt like that environment was going to accept that. So being more flexible will keep the numbers, talented women hopefully engaged longer. I think the second piece that I've noticed is everybody does it in a different way. These women here today, I've had the chance to work with many of them. And Elizabeth, I'll never forget telling us on a project to go big or go home. I mean, a shrinking violet doesn't give that advice to the Davis companies. You know what I mean? So, and she found her own voice. But I think finding a voice and being brave enough, and I guess self-confident enough to, and how you coach that and mentor that, I think is really important. So it's kind of not a one answer, Upendra, I'm sorry.
Sure,
it's kind
no,
of a complicated
absolutely. Good
issue.
insight though, yes. Juliette, what about you?
I think there's a responsibility amongst us and our teams and our companies to really seek out diverse candidates in our hiring. As Susie said, really to look at the whole person, not the gender, but also to really recognize that diverse teams in companies outperform teams that consist of very, very like-minded, similar people. So I think we need to be very, very open-minded about candidates for real estate related positions and have a responsibility to encourage those people to apply for jobs, and when they do get them, to mentor them and to be there for them. But I think we all have some work within our companies to do at attracting more diverse candidates and making them feel welcome and train them and make them want to stay.
Thank you. Jill, what about you?
So back in 2017, Karen Nelson, who's at DLA Piper, was the Crew Boston president, and she made a call to action. And I don't think I could say it better than she did, is we really still need the men in the Boston community, commercial real estate community, to work harder than ever to mentor and sponsor women in their firms. We need the men who are leading these firms to notice when there are no women in the room or at the table or on the panel. We need them to make it clear that diversity in their firms at all levels it's not just desirable, but it's necessary. So we still need our male colleagues to stand up and work with us. I thought she said that so great back then, and it's still true now. So it's up to everybody. It's up to the men, it's up to the women. So we've made, like I said earlier, we've made strides, but we still have some work to do.
Thank you. Jomarie?
I think we've made a lot of strides since I first started practice. When I first started practicing on the commercial real estate side, I was usually the only woman in the room walking into a group of men. And someone said it earlier, that we can be underestimated. You have to prove yourself by doing even better than others. But I've found that once you do prove yourself, you get accepted and people are open-minded. You know, I think we need to encourage the growth and retention of women in our industry. I've been trying to do it by mentoring younger women associates and others in my firm. We have a great women's group that meets for lunch and chats via video among our different offices one day a month. And I do think, as someone said, that this COVID experience with so many of us working remotely is creating opportunities and flexibility that we probably will not all go back to our offices and sit there 5 days a week. We've had to be creative as to how to stay busy and do it. And I also, as Julie said, I give the men a little bit of a hard time when I get an attitude, but I don't get it as much as I used to. And I try to do it with humor. You know, I've been called, if someone's calling me dear in a condescending way on a conference call, I've been known to call him dear back. And he sort of quickly shuts up. But it really doesn't happen to me as much as it used to many years ago. I think a little humor and making your point in a kindly way works.
Thank you. Elizabeth, yours is going to be the last word on this topic now.
Okay, well, I have so many things to say, but you guys said many of them, but I'll just go back to my earlier comments that I'm excited that ESG has gotten to the top of the mountain, right? That is going to drive all of us, I hope, to do the right thing. So the money is finally talking and demanding that we do real estate deals that are inclusive and diverse and all of those things. And then just on a more personal level, what I try to do and what I tell people that work with me and all my friends is try to walk in other people's shoes, right? Whether it's a man's shoes or somebody, whatever, just try to walk in other people's shoes and listen. And Cappy said it earlier, to be brave, right? Have confidence and be brave. I still remember the day when I said, go big or go home. It could have gone either way. Thankfully, Cappy was in the room.
Thank you. And one thing also I would like to add is it is always better to ask. And I'll give you one first-hand example is we also do another award show. It's called every year Excellent Awards. And Excellence Awards is open to everyone, not just men and women in commercial real estate. And a few years ago, we were very excited. We had 10 great people in our list. We made the announcement. And then as soon as the announcement was made, within 2 or 3 minutes, I got a phone call from Judith Nitch of Nitch Engineering. She picked up the phone and literally started screaming at me, saying that you are publishing these 10 excellent awards. And there is not a single face of women in the 10. All 10 were men. And I myself was total in shock because I personally am a big believer in the women's cause and women's empowerment. And I had great women colleagues everywhere I worked. And unconsciously, when the list was announced, all men were there. And you will not believe, I was in tears. How someone like me, under my name of real estate, Boston Real Estate Times name, you have a list of all 10 men. And then the very fact that she called, every time we do anything, we make sure that we pay special attention that this bias does not exist. And that's why sometimes men needs to be told, no matter how hurtful it is, no matter what it is, for the right thing, they must be told point blank, because that is how it is going to register in their head. And I was doing, this did happen totally unconsciously with me. And I always remember, and now because of that incident, I always consider jurists, my really mentor when it comes to the empowerment of women. So again, I think it's very important to keep that one. I tell that story all the time because it's an interesting thing and how, men should be told sometimes. So with that, we really conclude. It was a great pleasure talking with you and honoring you on behalf of Boston Real Estate Times, and really appreciate. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Okay. Bye.